Are you like stuck in a job from hell? Or anything from hell, a relationship from hell, a family dynamic from hell? And do you feel like there's no way out? You need to be in this job from hell to pay your bills so you eventually have enough time to do the thing you love. It's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is that they're waiting to be and become the person that they would be if they were living the life of their dreams, waiting until the situation changes. And I remember years ago, after I had my opening and I was doing all this inner work, and I needed to get some real work, I needed to get a job. Actually, in honesty, my fiance then said, you need to get off your meditating butt and get a job. And she didn't say it very nicely, but she was right. And I got this job as a waiter. And I had been an actor, a successful actor, and I'd already done the waiter thing. And here I was now going from being a successful actor to being a waiter again. And I remember going to this job, and people I'd been in movies with would come in, and I was humiliated. I would have to go into the back, and I was beet red, sweating, and I was like, please don't make me wait on this table. And I had to go out there and wait on people that I'd been in films with, and it was so debilitating that I either had to quit, which I couldn't because I needed the money, or I was just gonna suffer. And I had been discovering these principles of emergence that I teach, and I was like, well, let's put this to the test. And so what I began to do is I began to define and describe the life I really wanted to live, the work I really wanted to live. And I began to articulate through visualization and other things, if I was really living this life, who would I be? How would I feel? How would I think? What would be my character? And I began to describe that version of me 2.0. And the guy in the dream life was powerful, giving excellence, being of service, bringing joy, bringing aliveness, being creative and innovative. And the guy at the job from hell was not being any of that. I was suffering, I was sacrificing, I was shrinking. And so I began to practice bringing that version of me to that job. I began to bring excellence. I began to bring service. I began to bring generosity. I began to bring creativity. I began to serve like I was in a 5-star restaurant to people paying 3-star prices. And I got fired. And I'm like, what? And it turned out that something happened, and one of the managers didn't really like me because I think they thought I was going for their job. The manager that did explained it, hired me back. I hadn't actually done anything. And now I'm feeling kind of like a pariah. Who is this guy? Why did he get fired? Why is he getting hired back? And I began to dig in again. And I began to clean myself up. I began to find all the little places I was cutting corners, the places I was, eating the free food, which it turned out wasn't free after all, just because all the other waiters were doing it. And I was like, I should ask the manager. Sure enough, he said, no, you can't just eat the food without paying for it. And I began to clean up my character and bring more excellence and dig deep to the places where I felt ashamed and bring love and forgiveness. And I got inspired. I started showing up to this job like it was my dream job. I gave such good service, I started getting better tips than anybody. People even wrote corporate office. And now the other waiters started hating me because they're like, dude, you're making us look bad. Stop being so good. And I'm like, is that really the way to live? Is that really what I'm committed to? And I said, no. And so there was a period where I was alienated from them, but I kept bringing excellence. And eventually one of the waiters started to befriend me. He's like, what are you doing? How are you getting these great tips? Why are you so happy, man? We're at this terrible waiter's job. And then I got fired again. And I'm like, this doesn't compute. And once again, it turned out there was some kind of issue that had happened. I had been scapegoated. That guy, crazy guy bringing all this excellence to this 3-star restaurant. And once again, I was hired back. And this time I was fired up. I'm like, something's happening to me. I don't know exactly what it is, but when I show up, I'm inspired, I'm on fire, I am pumped up, I'm giving the best service of my life. And I was told that I was going to get fired again. And they basically said, look, you just don't fit here. This just isn't the right environment for you. And I agreed with them this time, and I left. And within about a month, I got hired working in the work that I loved. And I went from making $50 a day to about $1,000 a day. I went from working in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined in 5-star restaurants. And the key here is that this whole new life, this whole new level of wealth, abundance, success, creative opportunity, it did not come in that month or month and a half or so after I was fired. It came while I was on the job. Because on the job, wherever you're planted, that is where you're meant to grow. All of the obstacles, all of the challenges, all of the contrast wasn't against me. That was my workout room. That was where I was there to lift muscles of confidence, of excellence, of creativity, flexibility, service. I even wrote an article, eventually, how I stopped waiting and started serving. And I used the same exact principle to grow myself out of a little apartment when I had my first kid and get our first dream home in about 3 months when there was no way in the world we should have been able to afford it. So I've done this over and over again. And what I want to invite you to do is look at a situation where you feel stuck, where you feel like you have to shrink, where you feel like there's no room to grow. And think of it like a little pot and a little plant in a little pot. If it's just looking at all the bigger pots and going, someday I wish, if only, why am I in this bad pot? It's going to stay small. But if it digs its roots deep and fills out that pot and gets all the nourishment it can, what's going to happen? It's going to get planted in a bigger pot and a bigger pot. So I want you to look at a place right now where you feel stuck. And I want you to begin to imagine, if I was living the life of my dreams, or maybe it's the job of my dreams, or the relationship of my dreams, or the family of my dreams, or in the home of my dreams, who would I be? How would I feel? What would be my habits of thinking, feeling, being, and doing? And begin to write it down, describe the vision, articulate those qualities of your character and of your being, and then begin to bring that to the place that you're at. Begin to look for the opportunity to give more of you. Begin to look for the opportunity to practice the better version of you. And watch as you do that, it'll bring to the surface what's been in the way of you growing to the next level all along. And as you keep doing it, you will align with that new quality or vibration. You will integrate it and embody it. And one of two things will happen. That environment or relationship will ultimately meet you. It'll grow with you, or the universe will move you to an environment, a job, or a relationship that matches who you're becoming now. That is how you become unstoppable. That is how no situation can ever determine your success. I am telling you what I know here. I'm getting so fired up right now. No matter where you are, do this process and watch as you grow yourself out of it and into the next level, or grow everyone and everything around you together. Take that, do that work, share with me how it goes, and until next time, live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny.